going on, y'all? You know what time it is. It's time. Live right now. IntellectualRadio.com, my iHeart radio station. Everybody. Welcome to 2024.
We made it, y'all.
That's right.
We made it.
You know it. Of course, the man is right here.
Boss man in the house.
Boss man Mike B. I am your boy Abdul Rashid. And tonight, we're going to speak about some new laws that's going on this year.
Well, we got some new laws. We got some old stuff that's going on. It's a lot that's happening.
Yes.
You know, your boy Trump, is in the news again. Talking about what he gonna do and how he, the immigrants are infecting the blood of, this great nation. Clearly, he hasn't read a history book to know that we are a nation of immigrants, but, I digress.
But you know what? On that level, I got to give a little bit of love to the state of Colorado and to the state of Maine.
Oh, the secretaries of states and the Colorado Supreme Court?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
give some love to them.
14th Amendment, Section 3 says, you can't hold office if you've taken an oath and, raised an insurrection against, the states. I mean, it appears I'm not a constitutionalist. I've studied the law, but I'm not a constitutionalist. But if you just give it its plain meaning and plain reading, as they say we're supposed to do,
correct.
I think they got it right. I don't see why more states haven't raised this issue.
Because they still shaking in their boots.
I don't understand. The scary part is that this man is still 30 points ahead of his nearest rival contender, despite facing several trials and things like that. The language he is using is out of Mein Kampf, and he says he's never read it, which I actually believe.
I don't think he read Hooked on Phonics, but that's a whole other story.
But so there's that. We still have the war, unfortunately, going on in Israel and Palestine, or Gaza, with even more deaths being reported.
Yes.
And just what appears to be the slaughter of innocents. Women going out with their hands raised and going to a church and being killed. And I think today I read just a brief blurb. I didn't get into it, but Bernie Sanders is saying enough is enough. And we have to remember that regardless of where you stand, these killings are being done in our name, with our arms, with our weapons,
with our money.
So it makes sense that we have the right to question our government about the misappropriation of these weapons. It is going to cause, I believe, Joe Biden probably the presidency.
Yes, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the thing is, you have to ask yourself. I understand having to, you as a kid, you may have that friend on the block that you always protect. You know what I'm saying? You always got that friend's back. But even at that time, if your friend, you got to be honest with yourself. If your friend is getting out of pocket, you got to pull your friend by the coattails and say, wait a minute.
Right. This, as we have said, is not an existential threat to Israel. I mean, you have the largest army in the Middle East. And I guess the plan is, what is the plan after you do all of this mass destruction? You've told people where to go. You've bombed their homes. You've bombed their houses. You've bombed their infrastructure. There's no hospitals. There's no water. You're facing humanitarian crisis, and you're risking a larger conflict.
Yes, and the reason that they're pushing for that risk of a larger conflict is because they know they have the backing of us. Now, as you were saying about a plan, I mean, yes, I'm not an individual that's in anybody's mind but my own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I'm going to say my thoughts, and it's only my thoughts, it's nobody else's. My thoughts on that plan, and my thoughts is, and it looks like to me that you just for a land grab in my book. That's really what you want. you know.
I don't even know if it's necessarily a land grab, although that's part of the plan. But I'll say this along the same lines that you have said. I think there's a commitment by the Israeli head that in order to not face the consequences of his actions or inactions, that he's going to prolong this war a lot more longer than is necessary. Two, I believe that the end goal is to eliminate the Palestinians as people. And I know this may sound harsh. I know this may sound cruel, but the fact is that once we eliminate the opposition, we get to dictate the history. And if there's no opposing party, there's no counter history. And so our children will be told the history of Israel and how they decimated their enemies because they were a threat to Israel. We will never hear about the 11,000 women and children that have been killed, about the hostages who should have been rescued but haven't been rescued, about the flooding of the tunnels, and things like that. We have evolved as a people. That's the reason. Well, it's not part of the reason that we have rules when it comes to war. We have rules when it comes to war, partly for humanitarian reasons, but partly because we realize that some of our actions have consequences. I.e., you can't launch, mustard gas, but you can launch mustard gas, but you can't control the way the wind blows. So therefore, we outlaw gas. you know, we're scared of nuclear war, at least as we think of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because of the radiation fallout. We can't control which way the wind blows. Now, if it's a hydrogen bomb, then don't worry. You don't have to worry about radiation. You just got to be worried about being burnt to a crisp. But
Yeah, because even with any of these weapons,
right.
there's a repercussion. I don't care what country it's from, whatever, but it's a repercussion that we all, as human beings, will have to endure and deal with.
So there are rules to war, and the rules to war is we do not harm civilian populations. That we recognize enemy combatants, we recognize military age fighting personnel, primarily men, but we in this gender equality, military age personnel. We attack targets of opportunity that includes military. And I'm hard pressed to describe what is the difference between what Russia is doing and us withdrawing support from Ukraine, but we're willing to support what Israel is doing doing the same thing. I mean, I just find that oxymoronic. Like, we want to pull support from the Ukrainian people who are under withering attack, unprovoked, wanted to join NATO, democracy, whatever, and we want to pull their funding, but we want to continue to fund Israel for doing the same thing that Russia's doing. Someone help me understand that.
Yes, yes. And then also, let's just add on to that before we jump into everything else. Personally, after all this is over, after everything is said and done, some of the system that is within the UN has to be revised, rewritten, and so forth. Because if you look at all of this could have ended a long time ago if you went by the rules of the UN. But unfortunately, because
United States has a veto.
yeah, that this is still going.
Right.
Because there's still no way in the world that you got what is the UN comprised of
52 nations, something like that.
something like that shit.
I don't know, but
And about 144 of them said, "Let's end this."
right.
So that's a whole issue within itself. All right, y'all, let's jump into this. And as you all may know, but I'm gonna throw it out anyway. You can always hit us up when you jump in this conversation. The number is 708-223-8953, or you can hit us up on Facebook Live. But we are about to get on some of the new laws that's within the states that the states have made new for 2024. All right. One of the first ones I'm going to jump on. I know your favorite one that you definitely want, and we're going to definitely get into that. We're definitely going to get into that, and that's here in the state of Illinois.
The great state of Illinois.
Yes. But before we jump into that one, I want to jump in this one in Texas. All right. Texas has
Your boy George Greg Abbott.
They have now banned DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion within the colleges. Now, let's step on this for a second because if you really look at it, to learn, and to understand people, you have to be around and understand the differences that the people around you have. You have to take it in and have some understanding. But now you banned it where some of these classes that may teach it or maybe somewhere within that curriculum, now it's against the law.
Well, your guy from Harvard, Bill Ackerman, who is responsible for the Harvard president quitting and another president, female president quitting, and one of the first black presidents, female presidents of Harvard quitting, has come out and said, DEI is reverse racism. I find it hilarious that I just find it that this billionaire white guy is saying that is reverse racism. Like, what do you know about racism, dude? Like, I mean, like if it came from some guy in West Virginia who may have lost a job on a car factory and he can point to someone who was hired, sure, okay, you're a billionaire. And I can't even believe that he's self-made billionaire, but you got the utter audacity, the unmitigated gall to come out and talk about reverse racism. When you experience racism, dude? What is on this planet that you cannot buy with your money? And how you are the most privileged, have had the most, literally you and I are the first generation from our parents who have not experienced racism. We are and when I say the extent that it's not backed by law, political, social. My parents grew up in the South, Jim Crow South. My father and my mother participated in civil rights marches, right? What did Bill Ackerman's parents do? And you got the unmitigated gall and utter audacity to talk about as reverse racism? Dude, you started off on third base. Halfway to home plate. You got the audacity, and you're going to attack the black female president of Harvard because she wasn't sympathetic or she gave a political answer. That's the whole purpose of political discourse. We have the right to disagree. We have the right to not see everything through the same lens that you see it through, because her experiences are different than your experiences.
Right. And that's the whole purpose of the DEI, to bring that gap that is there.
Right, but we're so committed that we can't hear. And he's talking about it promotes separation and all of that stuff. Why? How? This thing that white people are bad. No, it's about accountability. Yes. It's about taking accountability of your history.
And they don't want to take no type of accountability.
Look,
I mean, like you said, they're already on third base. Why can't you, man or woman up and be accountable for where, how you got to that point? All right?
Look, it's about taking accountability and accounting for our history. Right. All right. Yes. We have made significant progress, probably more progress than any other countries have. But that doesn't mean that we get to erase our past and color it in a way that is not hurtful to someone. We interned Japanese citizens. That was done in the American people's name, not the president's name. That was done in the American people's name, right? And so there must be an accounting for that. We removed Native Americans from their land and put them on reservations. That wasn't done in an individual's name. That was done in an American's name. America must make reparations for that. We must account for that. But somehow we've gotten to the 2000, the 2020s, and by fiat, we're going to declare that racism is over.
When this whole system that has been set up,
when we know African Americans are killed twice as much, when we know that there are more black people in poverty, we know that black people's homes are devalued compared to the white people just because of where they are. So yeah, Bill Ackerman, yeah, racism is over. Why don't you come and give me some money and increase the value of my house?
exactly.
But you got the other guys like, dude, shut up. I just look, if it was anybody else, sure, I might be willing to listen. You know what I'm saying? But no.
and then you know what? Let's take a little further when you spoke about the separation that he spoke of. They also made an extra. Well, no, I'm not going to say extra. They put together another law that they could make a progressive prosecutor in any district there in the state of Texas can lose their job with the state if they do not prosecute uh, cases with abortion or about gender affirming or the election.
Look, I think ABC is doing a special tonight or the next night about the real consequences of this abortion ban. There was a lady in Texas whose fetus, for lack of a better word, had died inside of her. And of course, you're worried about sepsis infection and things like that. And her doctor deemed it an emergency. She went to court, and the lower court said, yep, we deemed this an emergency. I think she appealed. The appellate court reversed the lower court's decision. I can't remember, but ultimately the Supreme Court upheld the decision, overturned the lower court's decision about whether or not this is an emergency. So it becomes a question. And this is the problem. Who is making the decisions for what is in my best interest and my health? A doctor, a scientist, a person trained in maintaining life or prolonging life. Everybody's life has a finite point. Doctors can only prolong it just a little bit, but they're telling you that this child, this fetus has died, and and this woman is in insufferable pain, and she had to literally flee the state to go to another state to get an abortion. Now, regardless of where you stand on the issue, you have to admit that there's something wrong. That this is fundamentally wrong. Why should anyone bear this, not only the loss of this child or this fetus or this cell, whatever you choose to, but to have to bear the sickness based on some state's attorney who is as skilled in the art of medicine as, I don't know, a nitwit. So I don't understand. I don't understand this. And the sad thing is, until it happens to one of them,
Right.
then the law won't change. Until it happens to some politician, and we know it happens because we've known that there have been Republican congressmen who have had secret babies and, have paid for their mistress or whatever to have an abortion.
And that'd be one thing that I would wonder why in the world. Okay, people do what they do. Okay, but now you have this secret affair, whatever. But now you're getting money from the state. You're getting money from the people. So that money, which of course they'll claim that they already had the money to do it, we all know that. But that would always be put into question. That same money that you used to take care of this affair and take care of these children that nobody knew about until probably 30 years later, you know, why did not nobody make them accountable for that? Because we all know that money came from the people.
Look, they what they do with their I guess the problem I have is that you're taking money from these anti-abortion forces while you're backdoor. Like, what is that? Don't apply
And
to
that's
me.
what I'm saying. That
Yeah, it
backdoor
doesn't.
activity that you're doing, that you still getting the money for the people and these abortion places that you destroyed and all that.
Right. And this is definitely a woman's health, and her story is not unique.
Not at all.
These stories are not unique. They are happening all across the nation, where people are having to seek extraordinary measures. We recognize that case that even came out of Indiana before abortion was outlawed, where the 11-year-old was uh incestuously gotten pregnant, remember, and the doctor performed the abortion, and the death threats, and I don't get this part too. Like, we, there is a fundamental change in this country. Well, it's not fundamental. Let me recognize that, where it seems to be on the, for the most part, conservative side, that if we don't get our way, we resort to violence. And I was going to say that's new, but it's not.
It's not new at all.
They killed Medgar Evers because he was seeking change. Uh, Martin, the civil rights workers down in Mississippi, where change or progression resorts to this violence. Uh, just coming in earlier today, it was alluded to that, candidate Trump alleged that if the Supreme Court did not reverse the decision of Colorado or Maine, that there would be consequences. Yet we're supposed to remain peaceful, you know? So I just find that I don't know what happened to civil discourse in this country. Well, I do. We've never been civil about it. It's always required violence, the blood of martyrs, and a social consciousness awakening. And my fear is that there will be more violence, especially come this election year. That's my fear.
Totally understandable. And the main thing on that is it seems like that the other part of the Republican Party just, I mean, except for a few, the rest of them are scared of this man. And I'm sorry, yes, you have the backing of a bunch of people that just don't know how to make it make sense. But you got to stop and stand against this fear. It's got to end at some point because you got to make it make sense. And right now they don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then for the fact that this man particularly said, I want to be a dictator.
He just said for a day. He said for the. He just said for the day.
For a dictator could be a lifetime. Let's keep it honest, because that's where a dictator will take it. And I don't know why people don't understand that point. But let's jump to one more law, and then I'm going to let you have it for this last one that I know you're going to get at, brother. In Minnesota, this is the funniest thing, that employ they they had to force employers to base their pay for applicants on the skills, education, licenses, and the job market. You had to force employers to base the pay for the on applicant skills, education, licenses, and the job market. Why did you have to force them?
Yeah, that's my question.
What were they doing?
Ain't that what you?
Yeah.
Things that make you go,
Yeah, that's exactly what. I just wanted to hear your thought on on that, and then I'm gonna let you have this last. You can start up this last one here, bro.
Well, I would assume that they are taking common sense and make it into law. I mean, I don't know what Minnesota was thinking. What's the rationale behind that? What was going on?
You had to do that.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And they always say that Minnesota's a more
Progressive state.
progressive, liberal type state. But
Eh,
I'm putting that in question when I heard that they had to do this. They had to make a law on this.
I guess there were people who were licensed, educated, that was being significantly underpaid. Like, God, like, yo, like that just seems like common sense. To pay people based on their skill level, acquired skill levels, acquired skill set. So good job, Minnesota. Yeah, good job. Kudos. Yeah. So, a couple of things here. So in Illinois, the minimum wage went up. I'm not sure to what. I think it was 15 an hour.
It's 14 now.
14. Okay, 14 an hour. So, and tip workers went up to $8 an hour. So I think that's pretty good. I think minimum wage is catching up to the cost of living. And so that's good, for people who are starting off. You gotta remember, like, even like at what was the wage when we were coming up? 425, 725, something like that.
Yeah, it was about that, like 4. God, I'm gonna say, yeah, I think you're right with the
425, yeah, and it stayed at that forever. Yeah, so you gotta remember, like, if $15 and everybody's like, oh, $15 is like, well, hold on, a Big Mac costs $5, right?
Yeah.
So that's 1/3 of my salary right there, with taxes, so 507 with a Big Mac. If I want to drink, that's half my pay in an hour. So before we deem the quality of the job, take a look around you and see what the prices are. If $15 an hour and you buying eggs at what, 3? Well, eggs, the price have come down by now. Yeah.
Well, no, it shot up, it went down, now it's shooting back up again.
Right.
I seen something like, I want to say the cheapest I seen was almost $4.
Yeah. So you talking about, gas, let's just round number in Illinois. I just saw a price out by me, $2.77. So let's just round that to $3. $3 a gallon. If you work and you got to go back and forth, a gallon of gas is 1/3 of your work. If you put in $30 worth of gas, that's 2 hours worth of work just to get back and forth to work. Yeah. So think about that when, you're talking about, they're only working at McDonald's or they're only doing this. Think about what that means for that person and what they are able to afford. Now, like I said, if they put $30 worth of gas in their car, that's 2 hours worth of work, right? If you're working part-time, that leaves you with $30 to do something else. And remember, $15 an hour ain't $15 an hour because our friend FICA always come for his money. So when you're talking, $15 an hour and you working 4 hours a day, you're talking $60. So let's really be conscientious of what that purchase power means. Yes. So I know it seems like a lot, but it really ain't, because $15 an hour is only about $30,000 a year. You still ain't paid rent. You still don't have insurance. You still, you're barely putting gas in your car. So let's be cautious about that.
You even talk about having kids.
Right. So, let's be conscientious of that. So good job. And then, Illinois also passed this law saying that you can't remove books from the library and things of. But yeah, so that was a good part of the law. But all right, Illinois, let's talk about this. It's this thing that's been near and dear to my heart.
I know.
It's the Illinois what is it, safety registration.
The Protect Illinois Communities Act.
Yeah, the Protect Illinois Community Act went into effect on January 1st. For those of you who don't know, it requires people who own certain type of weapons to, i.e., be grandfathered in, that they have to register their weapons under their FOI card on the Illinois Secretary's, no, not on the ISP, Illinois State Police website, if you have your FOI card.
Now, why not register? I don't care if it's high powered or,
What's the point? What how is this? First of all, the whole purpose of it is the government should never be able to come and take my weapons. All right. I ain't a diehard, Second Amendment, but the government already know I got a weapon because they had to run background check.
I understand that.
And I had to clear the background check. Yes. Two, the prompting of that, the cause of this act, of course, was the killing up in Lake County from the parade. Remember the Highland Park? Yeah, Lake County. His weapon was purchased correctly by his father and given to him by his father. So I'm not sure who this act makes safe. Now, here's the other problem of the act. Of course, it eliminates the sale of certain weapons in Illinois. I have a problem with that. Again, not a constitutionalist, but we are part of a state where we're entitled to equal protection where I go in every state, right? Now, there are certain laws that make a difference. So a guy in Indiana can purchase an AR, but I can't. That doesn't seem fair. Two, we are in a system where Illinois gets to dictate my right that other people do or don't have. Now, of course, I guess the same argument can be made for the abortion. Same thing with Texas and all of that stuff. But I don't see how this act is going to make us any safer.
Well, I do feel that because you have so many people that can skirt around, which they will still try to skirt around even this, okay? But you have to do some things to kind of slow things down, all right? Because, yes, you can legally get your weapon. And I know Joe Blue somewhere down the street around the corner get the same weapon without going.
Technically, I cannot now own an AR that I had not purchased before October of 2023.
Well, let's just say you have. Let's say you already have.
Right.
Okay. And then Joe Blue, like I said, he can go get the weapon and blase skip. Now something go down because you got your stuff registered, you with everything. As long as you didn't do nothing out of pocket, you in the clear.
But how does that make Illinois safer? I mean, and first of all, let's be clear.
Okay, come on.
How do you determine what weapons that come under this act? It's like either ban all weapons or
we said in earlier shows this country's too scared to ban all weapons.
Well, the cat's out the cradle. I mean, the horse out the barn.
Yeah.
American weapons and guns are as American as apple pie. This country was founded by the gun. The West was severed with the gun. Right. So I just don't understand this act. Like, there's enough weapons in Illinois that if somebody else wanted to do something, they're going to do something. You know what I'm saying? Hell, we had a dude from Illinois go from Illinois to Wisconsin and shoot 2 protesters. So weapons travel, I just don't understand it. And you got to remember, like, shotguns are still can cause as much damage as AR. There are other weapons that weren't on the list. These high capacity weapons. Okay, sure. You should, 30 rounds, but man, there are people out there fast enough with handguns. If you give them 3 magazines with 15 rounds each, they got 40 damage. They could do some damage. if they got something like a 45, a heavier caliber weapon than a 9mm, you can still kill people. You have lever guns that can hold eight, or some of the bolt action rifles can do it.
Right.
So I'm just not sure how this act has made Illinois
So
safer.
what would you do to replace it? Is what I was about to ask you. Because I mean, we all know these streets need to be safer. Ain't no other way to put it. You know, we could dance around all day long. It needs to be safer. And then unfortunately, your AR has been demonized because that's the favorite of your school shooters and everybody else. So talk to me.
What can we do?
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I understand why you're not liking the law, and I know many others are not. But
well, I just read an article. As of December 8th, when the article was published, less than 1% of Illinoisans had registered their weapon. I'm interested to see what that number is now. Um, the problem is like they're not going to go door to door. It's more if you get pulled over and it's not registered, can you get into trouble for that? I think this is a Class C felony. Um, but what do we do? I don't have a hard answer, but what I do know is that all you've done is make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get their weapons. Law-abiding people who buy their weapons strictly for the purposes of protection, strictly for the purposes of hunting, strictly for the purposes of defending their families. And all you've done is made it harder for them to do it.
yes, you made it hard for them to do it, but the real purpose is those that had the potential. I just won't say criminals, but I'm going to say those that have the potential because anybody could be a criminal at any time of the day. But it's to slow down that process. Unfortunately, like I do, there comes to be a lot of collateral damage. And so the law-abiding citizens are the ones that catch that collateral damage.
I don't know. I mean, I think I could have gone with the stopping the sale of the AR, but I don't understand why I have to register. That's my issue. Like, when you're telling me that domestic violence is the number one cause and threat in this country, and you're making it like the guys in Michigan, they aren't.
Right.
You know, uh, the hell that their militia tried to throw out the Michigan governor.
Yeah.
So what does me registering do at the end? How does that make Illinois safer? If I had one, my weapon's under, lock and key, so my concern is that my government is unable to protect me.
And then here's the other thing with that. Um, you were speaking about you have been down with, stopping the sale altogether of the AR. But
Well,
now you got that problem with the NRA.
I mean, if your concern is limiting the weapons, then registration of my weapon has nothing to do with it. If you want to ban other people from selling the AR in Illinois, cool.
Because see, what I'm saying is, because like I do, better than me probably, that groups like the NRA are nothing but a huge lobbyist that has the money, has the power to pull things.
Yeah.
So, from what I could take of this law and so forth, that was their way to kind of skirt around it because the NRA would do nothing but put piles of red tape upon you.
Well, that's what they tried. This made it up to the Supreme Court,
Right.
and no certiorari was granted. So the law stands for now. But registration, the concern is that okay, the government knows I have or may have a weapon, and can confiscate it at any time.
But wouldn't they still have to? Okay, you got the registration of that weapon. What of other weapons? Because we all know there are cousins to the AR. It's not just the AR.
Oh, it was semi-auto shotguns, handguns that hold more than 30, certain accessories, you know, certain other type of weapons,
Would you not? Okay, I don't. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they could just come to your crib right now and say, "Come on, come up off that," even though you have done nothing. You did what you're supposed to do.
I mean, government gonna do what they're gonna do, so
Yeah,
they
but
could, but there is some security and anonymity too.
okay.
You know,
Oh
uh,
yeah, of course,
there's
of course.
you never want to be put in a position of someone knowing what you got or what you don't have.
Right.
It's better for them to suspect that you have it, excuse me, and give you a wide, whatever, berth, as opposed to, you know, uh them suspecting that you have it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem I have with it is when you're telling me that these are issues, that the number one issue is domestic terrorism, when we see the rise of threats to people of color, primarily Muslims, and the Jewish and all of that stuff, and you're depriving people of the ability to protect themselves, especially in the lack of government intervention. um, or hell, sometimes the government was involved in our past.
Yeah,
The bombing in Philadelphia, that was all government.
yeah,
So
right.
so yeah, I think that's the problem I have. It's like this is not making anything safer. It's smoke and mirrors, not actual safety. If you were really interested, we would start, cracking down on weapons, anything that holds more than 6 rounds or 5 rounds, or it's not used specifically for hunting. You would do those types of things. This is just an act that, bans the sale of, certain type of weapons. But people will find a way to make other type of weapons. You got these guns that can be 3D printed,
Right, the ghost gun.
those guns. You have, like an M14 carabine, that holds 10, 12 rounds, that's just as deadly. It's we've just made the boogeyman the AR-15, or weapons that look like the AR-15. But in actuality, the fact is that, we are a gun culture. We have not learned to deal civilly with each other. We've lost the ability to deal civilly with each other. And that has led to attacks and, things like that. So yeah, I don't see this act doing anything, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll be proven wrong, and the government will be proven right. But it's unfortunate what happened up in Highland Park, and I don't minimize that. Like, it was horrible. It was a horrible tragedy. But at the end of the day, his father did everything right and purchased the weapon right. And we're gonna find out again, that other people have purchased weapons and they did it correctly.
So I'm gonna
And
touch on some things going along with that. Well, one's going along with it, but the other one is more general. Um, yes, the father did everything correctly, but
now, why he bought his son a gun when she
he
knew or
knew he
should
had
have
mental
mental
issues.
issues? Yeah.
Now that's why I was going to go on. Why was his jail time so short? Yes, we all know the son is, well, he should don't see the light of day ever. But the fact is, pops, you gave it to him. Where did he? Well, how long was he in jail? A couple of months.
3 months. I think he got 3 months,
Come
something
on
like
now.
that. I
Come on now. I mean, and not to compare the cases, but um, the cop that was killed by the two brothers. Now, the guy that got those brothers that gun, he's going. I think he's doing years.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the difference?
Well,
This is what I'm asking because let's
well,
keep it real.
um,
And it's
yeah,
also
they're called straw man purchases. Um, Honestly, I don't know. I don't know a lot about the second case that you spoke about. But of course, a cop was killed, so that's sentence enhancement automatically. Um,
but see, should not it also be sentence enhancement of the killing of how many of that boy killed that day? Eight people,
people, yeah, I think it was 8.
and then injured.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, it just don't add up.
We are dealing topically with this matter when we talk about the violence. Yeah, guns are a part of the problem, but until we get to the heart of the issue, which is not just mental health, is our proclivity for violence and resorting to violence and our proclivity to uh, want to hurt other people. Um, we will continue to have this problem. The number one, I think that's the number 3 cause of disease, and I know we're getting to the top of the show, top of the hour, um, is loneliness. Um, and this tribal mentality. And I'm not sure how we get out of it. Um, Social media has driven us further apart than we ever thought. We all used to read the same papers, watch the same news, and we interpret it through our lens. But now we have social media that feeds our basic urges, that confirms all our biases. And that has made us more tribal and made us less willing to engage in discourse civilly. Uh, Politics is the commitment to civil discourse without the resorting of violence. Um, we've come to think of the word compromise as a horrible thing, that somehow the other side won. And until we can move away from that mentality, we are going to continue to have the issues of violence that we see in our country. Poverty, till we address that. We have a person who's running on demagoguery that chooses to villainize the other side. When we choose to villainize the other side and not see their humanity, we put them at something else, other, and that makes it easier to perpetuate violence upon those people. So to just deal with the guns is to only deal with the issue topically.
All right, all right. The other question, more a little, much more wider and so forth. Do you feel if groups like, since I mentioned them, the NRA, if they're knocked down a couple of steps, and I'm talking about, I don't care if it's physically, financially, or whatever, do you think that this would help the situation somewhat?
I mean,
Baby steps.
money is in politics. So if you remove money from politics, yeah, I think we would get laws that are more egalitarian and more equal. I think if we had term limits, that would do a lot. I think if you had to, give up your seat, and things like that, yeah, I definitely think so. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. We have we have gerrymandering, not racial, just gerrymandering, where politicians are now choosing their electorate. So yeah, lobbying needs to be brought under control. I'm not sure how to do that. That's a topic for another day for someone who's more politically astute than I am. But yeah, we can do a lot better than what we're doing.
Okay, brother, any final words?
Well, first and foremost, let's end on a happy note. It's 2004.
24.
Did I say 2004? Man, I'm tired, dog. It's 2024. Yeah. Yeah. What was going on in 2004? 2024. I just want to say, every time we just say make this year the best year, I'm not for that. What I'm for this year is just doing a little bit more than what you did last year. We always start off with these big esoteric goals and things like that. And I haven't done my goal list. I need to do that. I don't want to get too far in the year without, setting meaningful, concrete goals. For some of us, getting to 2024 was a goal enough.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. I think just do more than you did in 2023. Just do a little bit more. Don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. I used to have my trainer, Paul, used to tell me, he was like, just small, meaningful steps. Anything beats a blank. Anything beats a blank. So, whether it's health, finances, relationships, societal. Set small, meaningful goals. Don't you eat an elephant one bite at a time, So love yourself more than you did last year. If health is an issue, I'm going to shave a time off of how many times it takes me to walk a mile. If it's not a mile, then the end of the block, across the street. Just set small, meaningful goals, and you'll find yourself accomplishing those. Also, take stock of what you're doing. Sometimes we get so lost in the way and we find ourselves in the weeds that we forget how far we've come, And sometimes being in the weeds is good because now it means you can choose the direction that you want to go in, Loss is not lost unless you have a base. If you don't have a base, then you can set sail to wherever you want to go. So that's my message for 2004. Just 2004, do a little bit more. 2004, 2024. Man, I ain't even elevated yet. It's all right. 2024, do a little bit more. 2024, do a little bit more. Just a little bit more than what you did in 2023. And it'll be a good year. It'll be a good year. Don't judge. Don't judge it by the mile. Judge it by the foot. All right. And I hope that you have a very blessed, prosperous, successful, whatever you determine that to be, year ahead of you.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, real quick, before we get up out of here, I just want to say old law that's sitting in Iowa that should have been changed a long time ago, but it's still out there. In Iowa, if you have a snowball fight, you can get arrested. You can get arrested. Anyhow, real quick, everybody, 2024 is here.
2024.
24. Yeah. Man, let's do this. Because we all know it's a lot of muck, it's a lot of wrongdoing, there's a lot of just straight evil out there. All right. As a group, and I'm talking about everybody on this planet, everybody that is listening, everybody that may see this video 5 years from now, whatever. Let's all push for a hard push for nothing but good. We all know what is right. We all know what is wrong. Let's push for everything that is right. All right. And it's going to be an absolute great year. All right. So everybody stay tuned for the Denasha Harrison show. This is Elevated Vibes. We'll catch y'all next week.
Peace.